Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou. Bit of a difficult one today because what we're going to try and do is figure out what the starting 11 should look like against Bolton Wanderers in the Carabao Cup this evening. And I'm finding this really, really difficult. I've got to be honest. I sat down yesterday and I sort of tried to map out what the team should look like. And given the injuries, the fear of overloading certain players, the significance and importance of certain players, and the fact that you just don't want to take any risks with them, coupled with the fact that we're playing Bolton Wanderers, who obviously are a League One side nowadays, but obviously are a handy side, have got some decent players, and I'm sure we'll be right up for this tonight, as you would be when you turn up as a footballer from the lower leagues that's got the opportunity to show what they can do at Emirates Stadium. So I always think these games are tricky. I think people look at them and they say, oh, just play the kids. And I often think that sometimes you need to find a balance, because if you don't, what you do is you put this kind of mix and match of players that don't know each other particularly well in terms of playing time and in terms of those relationships that you need to forge on the pitch. And sometimes it's a bit of a dangerous game to play. Now, the counter argument and counterpoint to that would be, well, you can leave the big guns on the bench. I don't think we've got much choice but to leave the big guns on the bench, given how thin the squad looks at the moment. There's a lot of players that I certainly don't want to see start, but I kind of accept and recognise probably will have a part to play in the squad on the night. There's a couple of problem positions for me, because there were a lot of positions that when I was going through this team, I filled out really, really easily. I'll give you some examples of those in a minute. There was a lot of players who, for me, were nailed on. We saw the Arsenal post yesterday on X and on social media with the graphic sort of previewing the game, and Ethan Nwaneri featured prominently on that graphic, which tells me that he's in line for a start tonight, which I think is absolutely deserved. And that makes the game interesting in itself. I think it's going to be really cool actually to see a lot of players that we haven't had a great deal of a look at in recent times. We get to see Raheem Sterling probably start his first Arsenal game as well. It's going to be interesting to see how he fares. There's players that will probably be tired that I think could still probably benefit from playing tonight for other reasons, and we'll come on to those a little bit later on in the pod as well. So yeah, it's a really, really fascinating team selection. What does he do in goal? We know that Neto is cup tied. Only Arsenal would sign a goalkeeper for the cups that's cup tied. We had that debate and discussion and had a good old laugh about it at the time of that deal as well. So, there's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of stuff to unpack. But before we get into the starting 11 stuff, just a couple of points from me. I'd love you guys to join us over on patreon.com if you haven't done so already. If it's something you're interested in doing, supporting us, and obviously in return getting access to additional content, then visit the link below, patreon.com/the Chronicles of a Gooner. The link is in the description as well, so you can click on it and it will take you straight over. If you sign up on Patreon, you're going to get access to the match day reaction pod tonight. It's normally about 10 to 15 minutes long, and it's just a kind of very instant off-the-cuff analysis of what I've just seen. And obviously tonight's episode will come to you guys straight from Emirates Stadium. I'll be recording that as soon as the full-time whistle goes, and I'll get it out to you ASAP. So if you're interested in that, but also supporting the podcast, helping it to grow, helping me keep the lights on with it, then you can visit us, patreon.com/the Chronicles of a Gooner, and sign up. I want to start, though, by talking Thomas Partey rather than the 11. Not because I think that Thomas Partey should play tonight, by the way. Let me be clear on that. He's one of the players that I'm always worried about when he goes out onto the pitch, around how long he's going to last, how long he's going to survive without picking up another knock. I always worry about the workload that we put on him, and I'm always extra careful about my thoughts around when and where you should use him. So I don't want to talk about him in a selection sense. I don't think he should even be under consideration for a start tonight, if I'm being completely honest. But what I do want to talk about is some of the inaccurate reporting that's been done and has pointed a finger at Thomas Partey with regards to the injury that Rodri picked up. Now, we know that Rodri is going to be out for the entire season, and whether you like the guy or not, whether you think he's trash-talked our club in the past or whatever, the truth is, as I've said before, I don't want to see anyone go down with an ACL injury, because it's a horrible, horrible thing. And for the neutrals, for those that, of course, love the Premier League and watch it week in, week out, to lose one of the league's undoubted best players is a blow. And there's no There's no question about that. For us, it could be beneficial, as we discussed on yesterday's episode. There is a world in which Manchester City are just that little bit weaker in his absence, and maybe that opens the door for us and gives us a greater chance, perhaps, of winning the Premier League title. And we talked a lot about that on yesterday's show. You can go back and check it out because it's still very much relevant. We talked about the kind of double standards that we're facing, the way that Arsenal are being refereed differently to everybody else. We talked about how it feels like we've gotten under Manchester City skins. That's the last pod in the feed, last video on the channel, if you fancy checking that out. But there was a piece that went round yesterday, and I think it was from The Athletic. Forgive me, because I didn't read it at the time. I only saw snippets of it going around on social media. But the reporter who, or the journalist or the writer who put this piece together basically made it out as if Thomas Partey had gone out there to injure Rodri, or if he didn't do it intentionally, at least played some part in him picking up that injury. And I just think that's complete and utter nonsense. And I'm not going to sit there and go on a witch hunt over one particular individual, because I don't think this is the right way to go about it. And I certainly don't want to bring on a pylon for someone. But I just think it's a prime example of how you need to be really, really careful with your words. I've learned that lesson the hard way over the years. You need to be really, really careful that your facts are checked. You need to be really, really careful that you're absolutely certain when you put something out like that on a really big, powerful platform. Because let me tell you this, Thomas Partey had zero to do with Rodri's injury. It's an innocuous thing. It's really, really unlucky on Rodri's part. It looks to me, when I've watched it back again this morning, that maybe he just lost his footing a little bit and slipped. Is there a coming together between the two of them? Is there a bit of a bump between them? Yeah, there is. But that's because they're jostling for position. As Manchester City put the ball in the box, Rodri's trying to run across the goal, and Thomas Partey's trying to defend him. What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just give opposition players the freedom of our penalty area? Don't worry, mate. You get across the near post at your convenience, and I'll just let you do it. Do you know why? Just in case I bump into you and you catch, and you get caught and you go down and do your ACL. Like, it's just incredibly unlucky. And if I was a City fan, I'd be obviously very, very disappointed. But even the most ardent of City fans, right, for all the things they've accused us of over the last kind of 48 hours, gamesmanship, dark arts, all of that nonsense, Bernardo Silva insisting that we didn't even try and win the game. Guess what? If you're defending a lead, it's because you're trying to win the game, which is exactly what we did in that second half. And I thought we were desperately unlucky not to get over the line. But I think even the most ardent City fan, despite all the things we've been accused of over the last few days, will have to say that it's just an accident. And so why are we putting things out like that? I was just chatting to a mate of mine via WhatsApp. Big shout out to my good friend Kiri. We were talking about this, and what he said was, it feels like nowadays, particularly in this country, and I'm sure it happens in other countries too, but obviously we're right across the media here. I work in it, for God's sake. It does feel like there's a disregard for the actual football, and the football has become secondary in the discussions that we have around the sport now. So, like, rather than talking about the tactical setup that Arsenal used to make sure that Manchester City couldn't breach their defence for a long period in that game, rather than talk about the brilliance of Symeou on the right-hand side and the way he came in and completely, opened up Arsenal's defence and picked out Erling Haaland, rather than talking about all of that stuff, we're trying to create a drama. We're trying to create a soap opera. I don't care, by the way, that Erling Haaland threw the ball at the back of Gabriel's head. I don't care. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. The reason Arsenal fans are highlighting it, I think, and the reason that it's being talked about is because one team has come out and decided to try and call the others. Well, I say one team has come out and decided to call the others. It's a handful of individuals, and it's people in the media that are driving that narrative. To be fair to Pep Guardiola, and I think you've got to be fair to Pep Guardiola, I think he stayed classy throughout. And just going back to the Rodri Partey incident, where obviously it was suggested that Partey had done him or had played a significant part in him picking up that injury, Pep Guardiola was asked about that. He was asked about that in a press conference, to which he replied, no, I don't think they were targeting Rodri, and I don't think Rodri thinks that either. Thank you, Pep Guardiola, for not fueling this crap narrative that has been drummed up completely out of nothing in an attempt to build this rivalry into a much bigger thing. The rivalry is there, guys. You all saw it with your own eyes on Sunday. You can feel it now. Arsenal have arrived. Manchester City know it. And this is going to be a clash of the heavyweights for the next few years, unless something major happens to them as a result of their ongoing case with the Premier League. But the rivalry's already there. The needle is already there. You all saw it. You could all feel it on Sunday. You don't need to create false arms of that narrative in order to try and make it a bigger deal than it actually is. And this Thomas Partey thing really, really, really peed me off, because it's just completely born out of nowhere, and it's a nonsense. Let me go over to the live chat, say a few hellos, see what you guys are saying on the subject as well. What have we got? Gunner329 says, Jesus, the narrative post-match is crazy. They're acting as if we suddenly invented dark arts and no one else does it. I still don't know, by the way, what dark arts are, and I still don't understand why when everybody else does it, it's streetwise, but when Arsenal do it, it's the biggest problem in the world and we're terrible. The same commentators, the same pundits, the same broadcasters that would have said in the past, or would have been the first to say Arsenal are soft-centred and they haven't got enough about them and all the rest of it, are now the ones calling us dark arts merchants, in some cases cheats, etc., etc. Jan Tora Fjeldstad says, Partey blamed for Rodri's injury. That's rich. I blame the world for our injuries. Good day, everyone. You're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right. Gunnar says, they used to say we had a weak spine, soft, and had no cojones. Now you would think we are evil reincarnated. Absolutely. Absolutely. What else have we got? DJ Ashby says, good morning, Harry. Let's hope we can get the win tonight despite the injuries and lack of depth tonight. Compare it to the team that Chelsea put out last night. Yeah, but obviously, look, Chelsea are not, I don't think, going to challenge for the Premier League. And obviously, Chelsea are in a situation where they've got a hell of a lot of players. And thankfully for them at the moment, yes, they've got a few injury problems, but they've got a lot of them available right now. So it's very, very different. Look, what I would say is, before we come on to speak about the team, people have asked me over the last few hours, do I care about the Carabao Cup? Am I bothered about it this year? Because I've very, very happily gone on record in recent times and said, do you know what, guys? I don't care about this competition. And the reason for that wasn't because I don't want to see Arsenal win a trophy. It's because, in my view, given the squad that we had, given what we had sort of available to us, I just never felt that we could possibly compete on all fronts. And so something had to give. And I've always said, and this goes back to the beginning of last season, that the League Cup does not get you Champions League football, which is ultimately what we need to be achieving first and foremost. Neither does the FA Cup. It doesn't mean I don't care about them at all. Like, obviously, I'd prefer that we go through rather than we don't. And obviously, when we get players back, you'll be able to make changes to the side and still put out a very, very strong side, and it not be as taxing or potentially dangerous as it could be for us to do that tonight, because we're really, really short of backup. Like, we don't have Mikel Merino. And because we don't have Mikel Merino, can you risk Thomas Partey or Declan Rice? You probably can't. Okay? We don't have another right back at the moment outside of Ben White or Jurrien Timber, but Timber's been out for a hell of a long time and has played a lot of football in the space of a few days, so there's a risk there. Ben White wasn't even set to play against Manchester City because he isn't 100%. So you've got a conundrum there. There's positions where we are very much in the red zone, and we got to worry about that. I mean, the goalkeeping situation is a prime example of that, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But in terms of my overall feelings on this competition, I do want to go far, and I think we can. And obviously that starts tonight, so we need to go out there and get a positive result. But I'm also probably more excited for this game than I would normally be, because it gives me the opportunity to watch a few players that I've really wanted to watch at the start of this season. But obviously, for whatever reason, Mikel Arteta and his team have felt that couldn't quite happen. Give you a couple of examples. I want to see more of Ethan Nwaneri. I want to see Raheem Sterling start a game for the Arsenal and show us what he can do. There are players in that group that I think desperately need goals. And so I want them to go out there and get the opportunity to score goals against the League One side. I'm not saying there'll be pushovers or that it'll be easy. This will be the game of their lives for some of those players. But you'd hope that that can happen. So there's other reasons to be positive about this game rather than just saying, oh, it's just the the early rounds of the EFL/Carabao Cup, and so all it is a hindrance at this moment in time. I do recognise that there is some benefit to going far and going on and winning this competition, and particularly when you're at the stage of the journey that we're at now, where the progress has been great, everybody's enjoyed it, everybody is fully on board and understands the brilliance of Mikel Arteta's work so far. But I think we also all recognise that when you get to a certain point, you need to start winning trophies, because if you're not winning trophies, then what the hell are you doing it for? So that's where I'm at the moment. That's where I am with regards to this one. Lots of you in the live chat, which is great and amazing to see, considering I gave you like 10 minutes notice of this stream. But if I could ask you to leave a like on the video, guys, that would really, really, really help. It's so important that you do that on YouTube if you're joining us via YouTube. If you're listening to us on audio, guys, please leave us a review. So I've come across a bit of an issue on our sort of review stuff and review system. Basically, my podcast was previously part of a network, and when I took it out of the network, it seems like some of the reviews that I had on Apple Podcasts in particular have not come across. So we went from having like 400 reviews to something like 140 now, which is nowhere near where I want it to be. So even if you've left a review in the past on Apple Podcasts, can I just ask that you try and do it again, please? Because I really, really need them. It really, really helps. Just like the likes do on YouTube. It's really kind of beneficial to the algorithmic type of thing. Algorithmic, is that even a word? Anyway, you get where I'm going with this. So if you could leave me a review, I'd really, really appreciate it. And the same on Spotify. Right, just before we dive into the team selection, I just want to quickly remind you guys that this show is brought to you at the minute by NordVPN, the best VPN service in the business. Not only do they offer me extra protection when I'm surfing the web, but they also allow me to change my geolocation with the click of a button, which to me is huge because it allows me to access content, videos, streams, services that I wouldn't normally be able to do so due to geo blocks. I can access things from other countries while sitting on my sofa here in London, but while I'm abroad as well, when I'm traveling, I can log back into the UK side of things and watch my Sky Go and never miss a game and never miss a beat and watch Match of the Day and all the rest of it. So that's just one of the amazing benefits that I get from NordVPN. I use it regularly. This is not a product that I'm just throwing in your faces without having that knowledge and experience of how it works. I genuinely believe in this product. And that's why I want you guys to sign up using our code. NordVPN.com/ChroniclesAFC. You'll find the link in the description below. That's NordVPN.com/ChroniclesAFC. That's the page you need to visit. You'll get 4 months for free at the end of your plan, plus a mega discount. It's an exclusive offer available to you guys. Please do check it out. Okay, then. Let's try and make sense of what the team might look like, shall we? Here we go. Oh. Pressed the wrong button. I think this is the one. Here we go. I'm still getting used to this OBS business. I've told you guys before. You'll have to bear with me. Anyway, feel free to throw in your comments, your shouts with regards to this, because I've got to say, guys, I'm finding this bloody difficult. Like really, really, really difficult. Big thank you to Dub A as well for your really kind words in the live chat. Thank you so much, mate. That just caught my eye. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so look, people are going to look at certain names on my team, which you can see if you're watching us. I'll read through it in a minute and say, what the hell are you doing there? Why the hell are you risking this player? Why the hell are you doing it? And I understand that. I completely understand that. But I just don't think we've got that many options. And what we know about Mikel Arteta is that I'm not going to say he resists the temptation to throw in young players, but he's certainly more pragmatic about it and more careful with it than maybe Arsene Wenger would have been in years gone by, where he very famously gave, youngsters their debuts way before anybody thought they were ready. You think about Cesc Fabregas. I know Mikel Arteta's done it with Ethan Nwaneri, but the context of that game in the Premier League where we were 3-0 up at the time and there was 10 minutes to go and we were cruising, it allowed him to do that, right? I think in a different scenario that probably wouldn't have happened. And I'm not criticising Mikel Arteta. I don't know whether he is going to make as many changes as maybe some people are anticipating. And if he is going to make those changes, who the hell comes in? So I'll start at the back. I've put David Raya in goal if, of course, he is available. We know that he picked up what was described as a minor injury at the Etihad at the weekend, and there were some suggestions that he could miss this game. I just don't see who plays instead of him. So if he's available, I think David Raya will play tonight. The other options are young Porter, who's just 16 years old. What a call that would be to throw him into a game, with the first team. That would be massive. Rojas is another option that we have on our books, an 18-year-old goalkeeper. But again, we've not seen a great deal of him. So will Mikel Arteta do that? I think given that it shouldn't be a particularly busy night for whoever plays in goal for Arsenal, I think if Raya's available, Raya plays. And again, feel free to disagree with me and pull my selection apart in the comments. Going into the back four, I guess you got to start with centre-back, right? Saliba and Gabriel, no. Too important for me. Too important. Don't play them in this game. Obviously, one of the natural replacements would be Jakub Kiwior. Came on for a bit at the end of the game at the Etihad on Sunday. Has tended to do generally quite well. I don't think we've seen enough of at centre-back, really, which, if we're being completely honest, is his natural position. He played on the right side of the centre-back pairing towards the end of not last season, but the season before, after it was finally decided that we could not persist anymore with Rob Holding. He came in and he did okay. So I'd play him there. My left centre-back would be Ricardo Calafiori. Now, I know he had to come off on Sunday with what looked like cramp, but he's just generally had a lot less minutes than everybody else or a lot of other players. And so for me, he should be, given that he's probably not going to start at the weekend, or if he does, it might be at left back or whatever. He might not start at the weekend because, he's only started one Premier League game so far. And even if he does start again at the weekend, from Wednesday to Saturday, given that you've only played a handful of games, you should be able to handle that. So Calafiori would be my left centre-back. Again, another one I'd be quite interested to see in his more natural position. I'd go Lewis Skelly at left-back. I really liked Lewis Skelly and what I've seen of him so far. I love the character he showed and the fact that he showed everybody he was proper Arsenal, didn't he, the other day against Manchester City, just getting involved in a bit of housery from the sideline, supposedly coaching David Raya, as if David Raya didn't know that we should be wasting time or running down the clock. I can't say that because I'd be accused of dark arts. You get where I'm going with that. So Lewis Skelly for me is one that I think should start, deserves a start. Left back, he'll probably go in field and invert in the way that we know he can, because by trade, he is actually a midfielder. Providing he's all right, I'd start Ben White at right back. We've got that option now with Jurrien Timber. He showed that and he proved that at the toughest of all places. Ben White was nursing an injury going into the Man City game, which is why he didn't start. If he's got over it, I would start him at right back. So you're keeping quite a senior feel to that back line. Two players that know what it's like to be in the back line for Arsenal. Kiwior played a lot of games last season. Ben White too. Raya, if he's available, would start in goal for me. Calafiori's a senior player. He might not be that deep into his Arsenal career, but he is. And then you've got Lewis Skelly. So it feels like that defence to me has a good balance. My midfield would be Jorginho. I think that's a no-brainer that he comes in. In an ideal world, I don't want to play Partey and I don't want to play Rice, but I think because of what we have available to us, we have to play one of them. We've got to pick one of them. And I just think that given Declan Rice is generally the more robust of the two, he missed a game not that long ago, the Spurs game, because he was suspended. I think he's got less minutes in the tank as a result of that and probably gets a nod for me tonight. And then young Ethan Nwaneri would start in my midfield. He's one of the players I'm most excited to watch tonight. So, really looking forward to him starting in the midfield, hopefully. My front three is quite easy, actually. I've put Raheem Sterling in on the right-hand side. I know that Raheem Sterling's done most of his best work in his career to date from the left-hand side, but surely part of the reason we brought him in was because we needed him to be the backup to Bukayo Saka. Now, the reason you might see Bukayo Saka's name on my screen just off the side of the pitch is because I think, call me silly, but I think there's an outside chance that Bukayo Saka plays tonight. Now, I wouldn't play him, personally. This is the team I'd pick, not what I think Mikel would do. But there's an outside chance that he plays because he only played a half at Manchester City. And if we're talking about spreading the minutes, managing people's loads and trying to spread it across the squad, which is something that we're looking to do over the course of the season, but has been a little bit skewed by the fact we've got so many players missing, I think that could come into the thinking. So Sterling would be my starter, but I wouldn't be shocked if Saka started. Martinelli will play from the left for me, which is his best position, and he's done some really great work off the ball in recent weeks. Done some good work on it in the build-up to Calafiori's goal on Sunday, but he desperately needs to score. And Bolton at home in the EFL Cup feels like a great opportunity for him to do so. I think his confidence needs boosting more than his legs need a rest. That's how I see it right now with Martinelli, so he would start. And then Gabriel Jesus would start up front for me. So that's my 11. I did toy with the idea of Salah Adine coming into the starting 11. Obviously, he played a part in pre-season. I wouldn't be shocked if he did. But I think if you played him and Nwaneri, maybe you're giving Jorginho a little bit too much to do against what's going to be a very physical Bolton side. It's not Sam Allardyce's Bolton, but they're a League One side. They know how to look after themselves, and it's not going to be easy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. But my team, just to read it out to those of you that are listening, is Raya in goal, White, Kivior, Calafiori and Skelly across the back, Jorginho, Nwaneri and Rice in midfield, with Martinelli from the left, Sterling from the right and Gabby Jesus up front. Just a quick super chat from Alfie, who's with us in the comments section. Alfie says, hi, taking my sons tonight, seated right at the top. Are we okay to go pitch side to watch the warm-up, etc. before, or do we have to go straight to your section? So when you enter the stadium, you'll go through one of the gates, right, and you'll be in the lower tier. You can probably get away with walking down one of the walkways and going and standing right at the front, but at some point to get to your seat, you'll have to go back inside, go up the stairs, and go up into the upper tier. Most of the time, it's all right. Most of the time, you'll just walk past the steward, just smile, just act natural, and they'll let you past. Sometimes they stop you to ask where your ticket is, and they'll have a look at it, and then they might say, oh, you're not here, you need to go up there. But generally, if you just act cool and chilled, you should be able to walk in and go and have a peek at the warm-up for sure. Hope you have a great time, mate. Hope you really, really enjoy it, and so do your sons. Right, I'm going to leave it there because I've got a meeting. But like, subscribe, all the rest of it. Where are we at on the likes right now? I need to have a quick peek at that. Make sure that you leave us a like. There's no reason why we shouldn't have at least 150, 200 on there. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I will see you all on the match day reaction pod over on Patreon at around about 10 p.m, assuming the game doesn't go all the way to penalties and all that. And of course, we'll be back with the full pod on Thursday morning, where we'll look back at the game in a lot more detail, and we'll begin our build up to the weekend's action as well, where Arsenal, of course, take on Leicester City. Thank you all so much. I'll see you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Up the Arsenal.